I have followed Morrissey most of my life, from being a teenager in the 80s, all through his Smiths career and then solo career. And yeah, the Smiths definitely changed everything for me. You've seen the memes, songs that saved my life. Well, that was Morrissey, that was the Smiths. But it wasn't, I followed him not because of his voice, not because of that distinct, trembling, literate, theatrical voice, because he doesn't just sing songs. He builds worlds, lonely ones, defiant ones, beautiful, broken ones. And when I saw him live again 2 weeks ago at Radio City Music Hall, it was more than just nostalgia. It was defiance, pure and unapologetic. That concert was like a pilgrimage. Now keep in mind, 2 weeks prior, I saw my other favorite band in the world, Oasis. Again, that was mind-blowing. I did a video about it, and go watch it. I mean, and there are some deep connections between Morrissey and Oasis. But I was coming off of an Oasis show in I still call it Giant Stadium, in MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, that was also very emotional, very mind-blowing. I did a whole video about it. And coming off of that, quite literally in a deep depression, because who knows when we're going to get another Oasis reunion. But coming off of that and then going into Morrissey, of all things, it was biblical. I mean, it was amazing. It's beyond words. Morrissey made the sign of the cross on stage. It was like a sacred moment for some of us. And for many of us, it wasn't just a concert. It was a return of the banished king. You know, they tried to cancel Morrissey unsuccessfully. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room and how they tried to cancel him. Not just once, but over and over again. And why did they try to cancel Morrissey? Because he refused to parrot what everyone else was saying. Because he spoke truth to power, or provocations, depending on your lens and how you looked at it. He spoke words that challenged the orthodoxy of modern culture. He said things like, diversity really means conformity. And more recently, he said, idiot culture has taken over. He actually said it at the concert, which is true. I mean, he let's face it, in the modern world of TikTok memes, it's not hard to see that idiot culture has taken over the world. So those two quotes alone had the critics foaming at the mouth. There's a lot of people that did not want to see the Morrissey 2025 tour a success, and yet it was a success. Even though there were death threats against Morrissey, which forced him to cancel, I believe, two concerts, one in Canada and one in Connecticut. But he didn't give up. He resumed touring. You have to think, why the death threats? Because he says something that you didn't agree with? Or actually, not because he said something you didn't agree with. Actually, more accurately, it's that Morrissey didn't agree with what some people said and believe. Hence the death threats. But I'm glad that didn't deter him. But here's the thing, Morrissey's always been like this. He's always been a provocateur, a contrarian. He's always been complicated. He's not always right. He's not always easy to digest, but he's never been fake and never boring. So here we are now, post-Morrissey 2025 concert, although he's still touring, I believe, but I think he's done with the United States. I think he's moved on to other countries. But it's very strange. It is very strange. The similarities between Morrissey and Oasis and Liam Gallagher are really very strange and very striking. Because only weeks before, when I was at the Oasis 2025 tour, it really struck me how similar Liam Gallagher and Morrissey really are. Two British icons, two working class poets turned lightning rods, both survivors of the 90s, both allergic to bullshit, both raised in Catholic households, and both still haunted by God. Liam sings like a boxer, right? I think that's a fair analogy. Liam sings like a boxer, but Morrissey sings like a wounded priest. And the message is the same. Be real or go home. You know, the world has changed since the 80s and the 90s, for that matter. The Smiths are long gone. Indie music has been swallowed up by the algorithm. And yet, somehow, Morrissey is still here. Still controversial, still selling out venues, and still moving people to tears. Why? Because we're starved for authenticity. Because in a world of fake smiles and TikTok trends, Morrissey reminds us it's okay to be lonely. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to feel too much. So let's talk about that infamous quote that got Morrissey so-called cancelled. Diversity means conformity. Now, if you strip it of context, sure, it sounds harsh, but think deeper. We live in a time where diversity is everything. But how diverse is it really? Everyone dresses the same, thinks the same, fears the same consequences for saying the wrong thing. Isn't that conformity? Wrapped in a rainbow flag? Morrissey saw it. He named it. And in doing so, he has become the villain. It's all bullshit. The philosopher Herbert Marcuse once said, liberating tolerance would mean intolerance against movements from the right and toleration of movements from the left. It's really a paradox of our times, because we preach tolerance until someone says something we don't tolerate. That's not progress. That's censorship with a better branding. Cancel culture is really idiocy, because it's idiot culture. And what about idiot culture? Another Morrissey gem that has made the rounds recently. Some people scoffed, others nodded in silence, because deep down we know what it means. We live in an age of anti-intellectualism, where depth is punished, where artists are expected to be influencers, where everything is surface and nothing is soul. Morrissey refuses to play the game. He's not posting thirst traps or begging for algorithm love. He sings, he offends, he exists, and that in today's world is radical. Hearing him sing Every Day is Like Sunday, I felt the years collapse into a single second. I was 18 again, then 40, then 50, all at once. That's the power of great art. It doesn't just entertain, it haunts you. It's timeless. The more you ignore me, the closer I get, he sang, like a man who knew what it meant to be both loved and loathed. And in There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, we sang not as fans, but as survivors of a culture that forgot how to feel. Morrissey is lonely, but so are we, but he just has the courage to admit it. Albert Camus wrote, "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer." That's Morrissey. Winter in his voice, summer in his defiance. He gives voice to those of us who feel alienated by this smiling, sanitized, fake world. This 2025 tour wasn't just a comeback, it was a refusal to be erased. And it worked. Morrissey reminded the world that he's not going anywhere. That act still matters. That you can be controversial and still be important. That he can still sell out shows, sell out arenas, sell out Radio City Music Hall. I left that venue feeling more alive than I had in months.